Hello, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Ruben Jr. Today, I'm going to talk about the former General Secretary of the Communist Party and Chairman of the KGB, Yuri Andropov, who ruled the country from 1982, from November 10th, 1982, to February 9th, 1984, when he died. So when Leonid Brezhnev died on November 10th, 1982, it was quite a shock for the whole Soviet Union because Soviet Union really loved Brezhnev and people really loved Brezhnev in Soviet Union at that time because the oil prices increased during I think it was the early 70s, late 70s. Soviet Union was making a lot of money by selling oil, and the oil prices increased and it went up. And there was a lot of stuff, like I said in the previous video under Leonid Brezhnev, there was a lot of stuff in the stores, and there was a lot of food, there was a lot of drinks on the shelves in all Soviet Union, and people really loved that time. And then, so following Brezhnev's death on November 10th, 1982, the members of the Politburo were discussing who was going to be the new leader of Soviet Union. It took 2 days for them to decide who was going to be new leader of the country. So my father was 27 years old. He was in Moscow, and he was in Moscow studying on physics, I believe. So and then he was in a restaurant, and then he was in a restaurant sitting down, and then they played music. They played this music in the restaurant, and then suddenly this police officers came into the restaurant, and my father did not know what was going on, and they stopped playing music, and then they left the restaurant for some reason. So my father was in the restaurant during that time, and he did not know what was going on. So, and they announced that 2 days later that the new leader of Soviet Union will be Yuri Andropov. Andropov was the former chairman of the KGB. KGB was a Soviet police agency in the former Soviet Union, which was basically a kind of like the Russian version of the CIA that spied on other countries, like for example the United States and all other countries, and to see if they were behaving each other or if they're not planning anything against the Soviet Union or whatever. So Andropov was the first leader to be appointed. Was the first leader to be appointed as General Secretary of Communist Party of the Soviet Union as the chairman of the KGB. So during his rule, there were not too many changes to Soviet Union. So during his rule, he didn't rule the country for a long time, not like Brezhnev or Stalin or Stalin. He only ruled the country for about 15 months and 2 years, from November 12th, 1982 to February 9th, 1984, when he died. So the whole country was still, there was we had the corruption going on in Soviet Union, which was called the 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 era of stagnation, which people's freedoms were limited, and there was corruption going on in all Soviet Union that needed to be that needed to be reformed in the Soviet political system during that time. Following when Brezhnev invaded Afghanistan, there was huge corruption going on, and the corruption was all being covered up by the government in Moscow. So, but when Andropov came power, he made quite few changes to Soviet Union. So he started sending this police officers to people's houses. If they were not at work, the police officers would say, "Why are you not at work? Why are you not at work?" And then you could actually get arrested for not showing up at work or showing up at college if you did not go to work or college, your workplace, like a factory or whatever place you work at. Because he started doing that because the productivity of workers were not doing very well. And according to the newspaper and TV, which was like the fake media that told all lies and everything, all trying to brainwash people in Soviet Union, the Soviets were saying, "Oh, the economy is doing very well. We're doing very good. We're doing great." But in reality, the economy was not doing very well because the productivity of workers were not showing up to work. So that was the reason why Andropov started sending police officers to your house and say, "Why are you not going to work?" And you could actually get arrested if you did not show to work without any good reason. If you didn't go to work without any good reason for over 3 months, you could get arrested for being a parasite of society if you didn't show to work. So police officers started chasing these people who did not go to work, and they would question people if they were at their house or something, or in the supermarkets. They would say, "Why are you not at work instead of working?" So that's what happened in Soviet Union. So that didn't happen under Brezhnev. During Brezhnev time, people in Soviet Union did not care about people working too hard, or they didn't start sending people to police's houses under Brezhnev time. That didn't happen under Brezhnev time. But Andropov time, that happened. So when Andropov came leader, he started to fix corruption in Soviet Union. And during his rule, he was sick because he was already old. He was elected the leader of Soviet Union at the age of 68 because he was born on June 15th, 1914 in the Russian Empire. And he was also elected the chairman of the KGB from 1962 to 1982 for over 15 years. While in office, Andropov was in the hospital for some time from 1983 because his health rapidly deteriorated. His health declined, and he stayed in the hospital for a long time. And he did not appear in the public. For example, the October Revolution parade of 1983 on November 7th. He did not appear at the parade because he was very sick. And during his rule, there was a girl, a 10-year-old American girl named Samantha Smith. She wrote a letter to Soviet Union leader Yuri Andropov because she was scared of a nuclear war between United States of America and Soviet Union. She wrote a letter to Yuri Andropov, and then Andropov received the letter in April 1983, and he invited her to the Soviet Union, and then she left the United States and visited the Soviet Union in July of 1983. And during his rule on September 1st, 1983, the Soviets shot down a Korean airplane that was flying from Alaska to Korea. So I think it was North or South Korea, I don't remember. But it was a plane flying to the south. I think it was somewhere in Korea or somewhere. And they shot it. Then the Soviets shut down the airplane because it was flying over Soviet airspace. And following that, under Andropov's rule, his wife was taking care of him because he was sick during that time. He was in the hospital. His wife was trying to take care of him while he was sick. And in 1983, the U.S. President Ronald Reagan called the Soviet Union an evil empire during when Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States. And following 1984, following February 9th, 1984, Yuri Andropov died of a heart attack in Moscow at the age of 69. He was an alcoholic That's because he was an alcoholic because he was drinking too much vodka. Vodka was a Russian alcoholic drink in Soviet Union. So he was drinking too much vodka, and a vodka in Soviet Union, it was not allowed to any citizens of the country. Citizens in Soviet Union could not drink vodka because that was the law in Soviet Union during that time. And he was also a smoker. He liked smoking cigars, Andropov. Following this, Andropov died on February 9th, 1984, after ruling the country for almost 2 years. And following the death of Andropov, there was music on the radio. Nobody knew what was going on after Andropov died. And then days later, they announced that our leader Yuri Andropov died. And days later, they announced that the new leader of Soviet Union was going to be Konstantin Chernenko, who seemed very old. And I'm going to be talking about that in the next video. So, yeah, that's the story of Yuri Andropov, who didn't rule the country for a long time, and people were kind of scared of him. They were kind of scared because it was like another Stalin. A Stalin came back. And he did not rule country for a long time. So, yeah, that's the story of Andropov, and he could have stopped the corruption in Soviet Union, but it failed. He did not fix corruption in Soviet Union during that time. So he was the second leader to die in office, Yuri Andropov, following the death of Leonid Brezhnev. So next video, I'm going to be talking about the short and quiet rule of Konstantin Chernenko, and I'll see you in the next video.